Within a historic temple in Kyoto, Japan, resides a monk named Daion Miki, whose life is marked by astonishing traits. He lives in solitude and avoids the spotlight, yet he's admired by many for his exceptional gifts. Chief among them is an unusual ability. He can anticipate major global events before they occur. Though grounded in Buddhist teachings, his visions carry such serious warnings that they often leave listeners deeply unsettled. Miki has predicted that 2025 will mark a critical shift for humankind. He envisions a year of intense challenges, ranging from environmental disasters and emerging diseases to conflicts. But what do these predictions actually involve? That's what we'll explore in this video. Before we dive in, give this video a like and subscribe. You might find your luck taking a turn for the better. Daion Miki, even as a child, showed that he was far from normal. He possessed an odd sensitivity. He could detect the presence of death, an instinct that allowed him to know when someone's end was near. This strange gift helped him avoid danger multiple times, and once it even saved his own life under highly unusual circumstances. Back in 1993, while still a university student studying Buddhism at Ryukoku, he often roamed the streets with a camera, capturing ordinary moments on film. One day, while passing a pet store, he noticed a group of cute puppies and instinctively raised his camera to snap a picture. To his surprise, the shop owner came outside and stopped him. Miki apologized, and the man then invited him in for a cup of coffee. He placed 8 cans in front of Miki and told him to choose one. Miki drank the one he picked and left soon after. Later, Miki returned to the shop to politely turn down a job the owner had offered him. Again, the man brought out 8 cans, just like before. Miki drank one and left. 3 years later, just before moving to Tokyo to continue his Buddhist studies, Miki visited the store one last time to say goodbye. As if repeating a ritual, the owner again placed 8 cans before him. Miki drank from just one and went on his way. Everything had seemed routine until news broke. The pet store owner had been arrested and exposed as a serial killer. During questioning, he admitted that he had once plotted to murder a monk to test if divine powers were real. In all 3 encounters with Miki, the man had poisoned 7 out of 8 coffee cans, yet Miki had unknowingly chosen the safe one each time. No logical explanation could be given. But to Miki, it wasn't chance. He believed it was proof of spiritual protection, and that his path still held great undiscovered purpose. This strange and chilling incident caught national media attention and led many to believe that Daion Miki truly possessed an otherworldly ability. Born in 1972 in Kyoto, Miki came from a family with deep Buddhist roots. In Japan, it's common for monks to raise families. Though Miki grew up in a home that balanced discipline with warmth and care. As a child, he was gentle and thoughtful, often reflecting a wisdom beyond his years. But when he turned 5, things began to change. One night, he awoke to the sound of someone calling his name. Moments later, he felt an icy hand grab his leg and pull him from his bed. Terrified, he sat up in shock, but there was no one there. From that night on, Miki realized he could perceive things invisible to others, vague shapes of people who had already passed away. But that wasn't all. He also developed the ability to detect a strange scent, something eerie and unmistakable. He would later come to call it the smell of death. The first time he sensed it was while eating dinner with his family. Suddenly, the presence of death filled the room. Watching quietly, Miki soon realized the scent was coming from his father. Although still very young, he gathered the courage to ask, "Dad, "Would you go for a checkup tomorrow?" His question surprised everyone. His mother scolded him, thinking it was inappropriate. But just days later, his father was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Though doctors gave him only 6 months to live, his family's loving care helped him survive for 2 more years. That moment marked a turning point for Miki. He now understood his gift was real, not just his imagination. He could sense more than most, and he could use it to help those close to him. From then on, he began to train himself to watch more closely, to listen deeper, and to value the subtle signs that others ignored. After realizing the truth behind his father's illness, Miki grew more aware of his spiritual sensitivity. Though he didn't always see spirits, the scent of death would return during key moments. This strange perception wasn't unique to him. In a U.S. nursing home, a case was recorded involving a cat named Oscar. Normally distant, Oscar would curl up next to patients only when they were about to die, usually within a day. Staff observed this behavior multiple times. Oscar's presence came to signal that the end was near, and he was said to have predicted at least 25 deaths. This case further convinced Miki that the feeling of death was real, just not everyone could recognize it. One day, while browsing in an old bookstore, Miki suddenly picked up the same eerie scent. He looked around and noticed an elderly man standing by a shelf. Miki hesitated. How could he tell a stranger they might soon die? Just as he struggled with the thought, the man spoke to him. "What are you looking at, young man?" Trying to be gentle, Miki replied, "Your face seems a bit tired. Maybe you should see a doctor." The old man looked surprised, then gave a calm smile and said, "Thanks for your concern, but I no longer need to go." Then he simply vanished. Miki stood frozen, sensing that the man he had spoken to may already have passed. He believed that the man's spirit had remained briefly in the bookstore, and the scent of death was what allowed him to detect that lingering presence. From a Buddhist viewpoint, Miki explained that after death, a soul doesn't immediately move on. It stays in a transitional state for 49 days, a period of spiritual trials, before entering a new cycle of rebirth. Miki believes that during this 49-day transition, certain spirits may linger in familiar places, and that individuals with heightened awareness, like himself, can sense them. These moments only strengthened his belief that death is not the end. On a spiritual exchange trip to India, Daion Miki had an experience that left a permanent mark on him. It wasn't just a deeply moving moment, it was the first time he became completely convinced that reincarnation wasn't just doctrine, but a living reality. Upon arriving in Ratgir, one of Buddhism's 8 sacred sites, Miki met a local farmer who happened to speak Japanese. The man had studied in Japan in his youth and now managed a cattle farm. While talking, he shared an unusual story about a cow on his property. Whenever he spoke Japanese, the cow would come near, and sometimes it would even shed tears. Curious, Miki agreed to visit the farm himself. When they got there, the man called out in Japanese, "A Japanese visitor has come." Immediately, a single cow broke away from the herd and ran toward them. Miki stepped forward and asked gently in Japanese, "Were you Japanese in your previous life?" What happened next shocked him. The cow began to weep and nodded slowly. It even made soft, mournful sounds, almost as if crying. Miki was frozen, overwhelmed by the sense that this animal was once a human being with memories and emotions. Questions flooded his mind. Who had this person been? What had they gone through? Why had they returned in this form? Looking into the cow's eyes, he asked softly, Do you still remember your past life?" Again, the cow nodded. Miki began reciting the Lotus Sutra on the spot, hoping to bring comfort and release to the cow's soul. Before leaving, he promised to come back the next day. That night, he lay awake, unable to sleep. He understood why so many doubted reincarnation. They'd never witnessed something so real. But for him, this cow was undeniable proof. The following morning, the farmer called. The cow had grown very weak. Miki rushed to the farm and found it lying on the grass, barely breathing. He knelt beside the animal and asked softly, "Are you okay?" The cow moved faintly and gave a final nod. Then it closed its eyes and passed on. Though Miki never uncovered the full story of its past, he felt that its rebirth had been shaped by karma built in previous lives. In 2005, after years of dedicated practice, Daion Miki was named the 38th abbot of Rangakuji Temple, an ancient temple originally built in 1661. But by the time he took leadership, the site was in disrepair. Roof tiles were broken, and many Buddha statues were damaged or missing parts. From the start, Miki knew he had to raise donations to restore the temple. After a day of initial cleaning, he rested in a small room behind the main hall. While asleep, he had a vivid dream. He saw a familiar deity entering through the temple gates. It was Daikokiten, the Japanese god of fortune and abundance. But instead of appearing radiant, he wore ragged clothes and looked worn. As he turned to leave, Daikokiten waved and said, "Farewell." Something then dropped from his bag. Miki called out, "You dropped something." But the deity smiled and replied, "That's my gift to you." At that moment, Miki woke up, only to find himself kneeling before the temple's Buddha statue, not in his bed. Though he had many strange experiences before, this dream felt especially real. The next morning, he searched the temple thoroughly, believing the dream held a hidden message. Inside the main hall, he found a statue of Daikokuten tucked into a dark corner. It was broken, and its bag had a torn edge, just like in his dream. This confirmed to Miki that it wasn't just imagination. Perhaps the deity had truly visited him. Once restoration efforts began, Miki focused on raising funds to repair the temple's worn-out statues. But donations came slowly, barely enough to fix even a small part. He felt especially burdened by the fact that the statue of Daikokuten, the god from his dream, remained unrestored. One day, a woman came to the temple with her son. She said she wanted to donate all her savings to help with the repairs. Curious, Miki asked why. She explained, "I'm a single mother. I work long hours and barely have time for my child. I want to offer this money to bring him good fortune." Touched, Miki thanked her and tried to decline, but she insisted. In the end, he accepted and prayed before Daikokiten's statue. Before she left, Miki gently suggested she try buying a lottery ticket on her way home. A few days later, the woman returned, crying. She explained that she had followed Miki's advice and bought a ticket, and won exactly the amount she had donated. Through tears, she confessed something shocking. She had planned to donate the money and then end both her life and her son's. Overwhelmed by exhaustion and despair, "But your words made me stop," she said. "And now, I believe Daikokiten is real." The story didn't end there. Wanting to celebrate, she took her son to a restaurant they had always dreamed of, but it was closed for vacation. On the way home, they walked past a horse racing booth. She normally ignored those places, but something urged her to buy a ticket. This time, the prize was even greater. 10 million yen. She used the money to open a shop and support herself and her son. The rest she brought back to the temple to thank Daikokutin. News of the story spread quickly. Visitors came from far and wide, not only to pray, but to see where a miracle had taken place. Days later, a nearby religious goods shop owner visited Miki and said a customer had commissioned a pedestal for a Buddha statue. When the statue was brought in to check the fit, it turned out the pedestal was too short and didn't align with the statue's proportions. A replacement had to be made, and the original base was set aside. But upon closer inspection, the shop owner suddenly remembered the Daikokutin statue at Rangakuji Temple. He decided to bring the unused pedestal to the temple and offered it as a donation. To everyone's amazement, the base fit the Daikoten statue in the main hall perfectly, without a single adjustment. Miki knelt before the statue, overcome with gratitude for such an extraordinary, precise turn of fate. And the signs kept coming. Days later, workers dismantling an old building near the temple made a surprising discovery: several ancient statues buried within. These figures represented the 7 lucky gods, or Shichifukujin, beloved deities of fortune in Japanese folklore. Unsure where to take them, the workers brought the statues to Rangakuji Temple and asked Miki to care for them. As each statue was placed gently in the temple's main hall, Miki was overwhelmed with emotion. A powerful feeling stirred within him. Perhaps Daikokutin had not returned alone. Perhaps he had led the other gods here to remain together. While monk Daion Miki was already known for his spiritual encounters, his predictions about world events had also drawn significant public attention. In a little-known talk he gave in 2010, long before he gained widespread recognition, Miki issued a striking warning. He claimed the world would soon enter a long period of turmoil, with each passing decade bringing more intense waves of instability. These, he said, were not abstract warnings. They were already manifesting. The first major crisis, he said, would be a global pandemic. He later identified this with the COVID-19 outbreak, which claimed millions of lives in just a few years. The second disaster would involve armed conflict triggered by foreign aggression. He believed the war between Russia and Ukraine was a direct example of this, as well as the more recent conflict involving India and Pakistan. The third disaster would be social unrest and internal violence. He cited political assassinations such as that of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and the attempted assassination of U.S. President Donald Trump in 2024 as troubling signs. The fourth disaster, he said, would stem from unusual cosmic activity, rare planetary alignments signaling upheaval in human affairs. He pointed out that such alignments occurred and would again in 2025. In fact, in February 2025, a rare alignment of 7 planets took place. The fifth involved rare solar and lunar eclipses, believed by ancient traditions to disrupt natural order. Recent total eclipses, especially across the U.S., left many people with a sense of deep unease. The sixth calamity would be extreme, out-of-season weather, massive storms, hail, or even snow in midsummer. Miki interpreted these events as unmistakable warnings about the worsening climate crisis. The seventh disaster, he warned, would be widespread drought, leading to crop failures and possible famine. He feared that unless humanity changed its relationship with nature, a food shortage would be inevitable. What Miki had outlined back in 2010 seemed to be playing out step by step. What many find disturbing is how closely the real events have followed the order in which he described them. First the pandemic, then conflict, then internal unrest, followed by climate disasters. In recent public talks, Daion Miki has emphasized that 2025 is not just another year, it's a moment of historic consequence. He believes it represents a major crossroad in human destiny, one shaped by rare astronomical events, intensifying climate chaos, geopolitical tension, and deepening social rifts. These could converge and plunge the world into even deeper instability. But he insists on one key truth: the future is not fixed. It is shaped by the actions people take in the present. Miki warns that if we keep spreading hatred, damaging the environment, and living in fear, disasters will only multiply. But if we can stop, reflect, and begin changing ourselves for the better, the worst outcomes might never happen. He doesn't call people to fear. He calls them to hope, to live with sincerity, keep their hearts pure, and treat one another with kindness. In his view, even small acts of good, when multiplied, can spark a collective wave of change, powerful enough to shift the course of the world. Thank you for staying with us through today's story. If Monk Miki's insights have inspired you to reflect on how we live and where we're headed, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to continue exploring stories of spirituality, history, and the unexplained, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until next time,